time alone. Let's talk to Anastasia Tempest, who's lived alone all her adult life. She tweeted me to say that she was on her own and feeling depressed during lockdown. She has cerebral palsy and has been self-isolating in her flat in North London. And in a moment, we'll speak to a representative from the Red Cross. Anastasia, hello, good morning.
Hello, Victoria. How are you?
Very well, thank you. How are you?
I'm trying to be okay. This lockdown is really getting to me.
Tell us why.
Yeah. It's the isolation, but like double isolation. As I've mentioned to you when you telephoned, I have a care background. I don't have any support system. I have cerebral palsy. So the combination of just being absolutely left on my own, and I'm finding things incredibly difficult because I feel that my health is actually deteriorating. Also, I don't actually have an electric wheelchair that works. So the combination of absolutely everything, and I've just been let down, ignored, and I just feel that nobody gives a damn. And to be quite honest, I really worry about whether I could drop dead and nobody would know about it.
Goodness me, don't say that, Anastasia. Can you remember the last time you went out?
I can't remember the last time I went out. I just feel that everything is an absolute blur, I should say. And one of the things that actually keeps me going is I listen to the radio, I listen to TED Talks. And I listen to documentaries and the news. I think I ought to cut down some of the news because, as you know, it's just one subject only. But there's only so many documentaries on elephants that you can watch. So it's really, I'm really crawling up the walls, to be quite honest.
Do you have family? Do you have friends?
I don't. I have one or two, but they're busy with their own lives and they're quite at a distance. So no, not really. No, it's very difficult when you've had a care background and you live a life without any relatives. And I've got to say that it's not only the elderly that live in isolation. I mean, when the government are always talking about people 70 years and more, it really annoys me, to be quite honest.
Yeah. How would you describe the impact on you of the last few months? Because I know you have been self-isolating actually since February, which is before the government brought in lockdown.
Yeah, because I thought that would be a good idea because I'm concerned about my health conditions and possibly getting worse. I always thought it's a good idea to keep a distance from other people, you know, anybody outside. And I'll tell you something, I've always, like the Queen, I don't shake that many hands, but I always wear gloves. I'm not wearing gloves now because I'm on my own.
No.
But it's very difficult, and I still have the practicalities of food, and I've had to rely on a couple of charities. If it wasn't for people who do charity work, I don't know what I'd be doing, but the social services haven't done anything for me.
Right.
I used to be on direct payments, and I'm not on direct payments anymore, which was a good scheme to employ my own personal assistant, and that worked really well. So don't rock the boat if the system is working well. So I find myself improvising a lot. I've done. I did a food order online. That's proving to be a nightmare. I'm not as technical as I'd like to be, and I have one meal a day, so it's just as well.
Yeah.
I don't like the idea of can I be a bit direct? I don't want to be fat with cerebral palsy.
Fair enough. So,
Yeah.
I mean, you're saying to us, I think, Anastasia, that in terms of there are a couple of charities that bring you food, you might be able to get an online delivery order if you're lucky. That's the only contact you're having with people? You're having like 2-minute conversations with those people?
2 minutes conversation, and I get the impression from them they just want to say, here's the food, bye.
Well, it's really distressing to hear you talking like this, Anastasia, but we absolutely get it. I'm going to talk to Zoe Abrams from the Red Cross in a moment. First, I'm going to have a word with Ivy Gray, who is 87. Ivy, hello, can you hear me okay?
Yes, thank you.
Hi, good morning. How are you feeling?
Fed up.
Are you? Go on.
I know what Anastasia means. I mean, I have some lovely people that phone me and they bring me things, but it's being in this flat alone all the time. And whereas I used to go uptown about 4 times a week because I'm fed up indoors, I can't do that now.
Yeah.
So I'm climbing up the wall. It's good exercise, but I'm doing it.
How would you say, Ivy, it's affecting your well-being?
It's pulled me down. I do exercises, but it's pulled me down because when I've done exercises and done what I need to do, I sit and maybe watch television for movement and sound, but I start to think of the past and things maybe which should have been different and lovely things which won't come back, and I end up nearly in tears.
I'm so sorry to hear that, Ivy.
But I do what I can, and I love the people that love me and the people that help me.
And who are those people?
Anybody I know.
Yeah. When was
I wouldn't pick anybody. If you asked me to hug 2 people, I'd say, okay, I'll hug the Queen and Prince Philip, because I love the people I know. I love my family.
It's so interesting that you mentioned hugging, Ivy, because I just wonder if that's one of the things that you're really missing.
It is. It is. Yes, it is. But it's being in here, not being able to touch, not asking someone in for a coffee, like I say, not being able to go uptown and talk to people. My friends uptown, I used to go up about 10 o'clock and go from cafe to toilet to cafe, sort of coffee and have something to eat in the back of Waitrose. And I can't do that now. I can't go into the shops of people I know. I'm a sort of person that likes people, and that sounds weird.
No, it doesn't sound weird. It really doesn't, Ivy. There'll be loads of people relating exactly to what you're saying. Let me bring in Zoe from the Red Cross. Zoe, heartbreaking to hear from both Ivy and Anastasia. And as Ivy says, it's not just elderly people who are really suffering from loneliness. What can you say to both of our ladies this morning that might help in some little way?
Well, I think from listening to Ivy and Anastasia, what you can really appreciate is how actually resilient they are. It's a long-term grind, loneliness, and it sounds like they both are deploying some strategies to be able to cope with what's going on, and it's a really difficult time for so many people. You quoted at the beginning the figure of 1 in 5 people being often or always lonely, which comes from British Red Cross research a couple of years ago. And there was a YouGov survey recently which found that this was even more of the case, that 24% of people say that they now feel more lonely than usual. We do know that people who have mobility issues, long-term health problems, people from lower incomes suffer more greatly from loneliness.
So what practical things could Ivy do? What practical things could Anastasia do?
So practical things that they could do are reaching out to the people that they do know and making requests to be in regular contact. So, I mean, as I think Anastasia said, people are busy with their own lives. So sometimes it's just about getting on someone's radar. If that feels too much of a burden on the people that you know, or you've already done it, then there are organisations like the British Red Cross that you can reach out to. If you look up the British Red Cross online, there's information about getting help for loneliness.
And what would you do? What if let's say Ivy or Anastasia did that? What would you do for them?
Well, we have wonderful, wonderful volunteers who will just listen, who will have conversations with them. And it's so important in times of crisis to be treated as a whole person, not as just a set of physical needs. So Anastasia talked about how she'd had some food deliveries, and that's wonderful. We must meet people's physical needs in this crisis. But people are more than, we're social animals. We're more than just needing to be fed. People need human contact as well. So it's about regular, reliable, kind contact. So it would be having chats on the phone, video conferencing, and then we've put together sets of packs, for example. This is one of the ways in which we've adapted our services with activities in there that people can do, like listening to podcasts, like colouring in, like caring for pot plants. It's part of keeping a busy mind, and also starting to establish connections that will see people through to hopefully when this extreme moment of crisis has passed as well, so that they can be less lonely in future too.
Yeah. And I mean, this is when Twitter does come into its own. A number of people now saying, I would really like to connect with Anastasia and Ivy just to have a phone conversation. And of course, there is the NHS volunteer responder scheme, which some people reminded me of, which I thought about first thing this morning when I woke up. You know, part of the idea of encouraging all those volunteers to come forward was so that they could have telephone conversations with people like yourself, Ivy, and yourself, Anastasia. Is there a way of looking that up, Anastasia? Would that be something you'd be interested in?
Volunteering if it was over the telephone. I feel that I understand a lot of people's circumstances that they too are also in, but can I just say that for the it's the combination of circumstances that I find that is very difficult with having cerebral palsy, and it's at quite a severe level. And I think, however, that having isolation can often be much more difficult than cerebral palsy itself, because having cerebral palsy is related to something practical, whether I get the bed change or having a meal prepared, you know, something on that level. But the isolation seems to just get really, really ignored. And I don't have any relatives, and I find that very difficult. And I've always been an isolated person, even before the coronavirus came on the scene.
You may not want to do this, Ivy and Anastasia.
Can I explain?
Can I put you both together? Can I swap numbers between you both? Again, you may not want to do it.
Can I explain something?
Yes.
It's difficult for me to see as I have AMD, and also it's difficult for me to feed myself because I have essential tremor. So I feed half on me and half down the front of me, sort of thing. Not quite as bad as that, but life itself is difficult. But I've still got a brain. But I can't read books, and I used to love reading. I do listen to books from
audio
Caliber,
books, yeah.
But I used to love reading, and I can't. And I have great difficulty. If you ask me to write down a phone number, I can't do it, because if I did, I wouldn't be able to read it afterwards.
Understood.
Because my hands shake so badly.
Yeah.
I've got to see the neurologist, but my appointments were all cancelled because of this wretched virus.
Of course. You know, I know you've got some good friends, Ivy, and I know that they call you. I think you're going to have to ask them to get the NHS volunteer responder scheme to work for you, so that people will call you, so that you don't feel as lonely. Is it okay for you to ask for help from them?
What, my friends?
Yeah.
I don't like asking people to do things.
I know, but they want to help. They will want to help you, Ivy. Honestly, I promise you.
I'm a pain in the butt.
You're not. You're lovely.
Oh, I like you.
Thank you very much for coming on the programme, Ivy. We will do our best to help. Anastasia, thank you so much for getting in touch.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Anastasia. And Zoe, thank you for your advice and guidance as well. Thank you very much, Zoe Abrams from the Red Cross. And I want to give you the action line number, because perhaps you are affected by loneliness or other issues right now. Then the address should be on your screen right now. There it is, bbc.co.uk/action line. And they can point you in the right direction for any organisations and support groups that can help.